My name is Brandon, and welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find the latest album reviews, you can find our band interviews, and you can find our live episodes, which we do every Wednesday night at around 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, right here on the channel. So definitely come check that out. We have few things changing in the lineup and sort of a thing like that. We're gonna be splitting up the topics and the news and the artist spotlight and stuff like that. That's going to be all changed up and shorter videos so that you're not sitting there for an hour listening to us Babylon and everything like that. So definitely go check that out if you haven't. I'll make sure to leave a link up in the I section over there in the corner. Definitely go check that out. I really appreciate it. And the rest of the guys at Audio Addiction would appreciate it as well. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps out our channel. It helps us get bigger and better things, and hopefully, you guys like it enough to subscribe. Again, much appreciated, much love for all of you guys that have come to check this out. It really means a lot to me, and again, the rest of the guys of Audio Addiction. So definitely go check that out. Um, Definitely hit the subscribe button if you feel so inclined. Also, make sure to hit that like button, especially if you enjoy this album review. It really helps out. Again, it helps us see what people want to see and what people don't want to see. Whatever, definitely helps us out in that regard. So if you could do that, that'd be amazing as well. But without further ado, tonight we're gonna be talking about Green Day's new record, Revolution Radio.
I testify like a lullaby of memories, broadcasting live and it's on my radio. I got my photo bomb.
So, for those of you who has not heard of Green Day, you've been living under a rock, first of all, and secondly, I've been a longtime fan of theirs. I just remember, early middle school and even high school listening to like Dookie, American Idiot, 21st Century Breakdown. Those tracks, just those albums in particular, not tracks, just have been in my life for a while. So I was really excited to hear that they were doing another record. Um, Again, being a longtime fan of Green Day, it's cool to see that the old pop punk resurgence is coming back. For example, like Blink 182 just released a new album called California, and then Sum 41's coming out with one on the same day as Green Day, which is October 7th. Um, that one's gonna be called 13 Voices, and then Yellow Card. I wouldn't even really consider them pop punk, but um, they're releasing a new record. Um, Good Charlotte just released a new record. So I mean, like, I'm not saying they're pop punk either, but I mean, like, just nostalgic sort of bands. They're all putting out new records and stuff like that. So I was excited to see again that they were putting out new music and stuff like that. So without further ado, we're gonna get right in. So the first track is called "Somewhere Now." I really enjoyed this track. It's a cool like intro track. It gets you really excited for the rest of the record, I would say. There's some slower bits, which you'll find out once I go through all the tracks, and then there are some faster, sort of more punk rock based tracks. So that's always a cool thing to experience. But this track in particular, I like the beginning with Billy just by himself with acoustic guitar, and he just starts out the intro for about a minute ish with just the acoustic guitar and him singing. I've really always endeared his voice, just as I'm not a vocalist, but I've always endeared his voice and just how it sounds and stuff like that. I know it's not like the best sounding voice ever, but there's just something again nostalgic about Billy Joel, that just takes me back to when I was a younger kid. But I really enjoyed this one. Then it really kicks in with the guitars, the bass, the drums. They all come back in and stuff like that. And I feel like it's a well-rounded and well put together track. We'll move in to track number two, which is Bang Bang. This was the first single that they released, and I was super stoked on this one. I still think that this is the best track off the record, without a doubt. It just reminds me of that classic Green Day, album. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Dookie, a little bit. Also, kind of reminds me a lot. It actually reminds me a lot of a track, maybe off of like American Idiot or something like that. I just feel like this track is one of the more solid tracks that they've written in a while. I know it's kind of again pretty much bare bones pop pop punk, but I feel like they have killed it with this genre for years. So I feel like again this is just kind of again a more nostalgic feeling again, especially with this track more or less than the first one. But um, again, I would say this one's one of my favorite tracks off the record. We'll move into track number three, which is Revolution Radio, the title track of the record, of course. Um, I really dug this one as well. I like the cool, like, you know, intro part, and then, they just kick it in with the drums and it just goes insane. And then, it's a Green Day track just based off of just how it's written, how it's arranged, and I feel like over the years they've just gotten better with writing tracks and arranging tracks and stuff like that. I mean, obviously they've done a lot since their days in American Idiot, Dookie, stuff like that. They've learned a lot over time, so I feel like they've really perfected what they've done, and this is no exception. This one's a great track. I would definitely put this in the ranks of top tracks off this record as well. I believe it was the second single that they released, but I really enjoyed this one too. Um, Say Goodbye was really cool. It's kind of like a different flair, but again, still keeping with the whole Green Day spirit and stuff like that. I like I like that Billy kind of starts off with just his vocals, and then their drum player just kicks in with some of the drum parts, and then obviously the full band comes in after like 30 seconds ish or something like that. I really enjoy this one as well. I wouldn't put it in my favorites. I think it's a memorable track, but I would definitely not put it in my favorites, but I think it's a good track overall. We'll move on to track number five, which is Outlaws. This kind of reminds me of probably something off of 21st Century Breakdown, um, just in that sort of vein of music and how it's written. It's got that piano. It's very sad. It's got this very sad, tune or tone to it. Um, Again, it kind of reminds me of I don't know what it would sound like. Kind of reminds me of a little bit of Boulevard of Broken Dreams, something along those lines. Just maybe a little bit slower, a little bit more emotional. Again, these tracks just feel very very nostalgic to me. Considering that again, I really enjoyed American Idiot and I really enjoyed 21st Century Breakdown. But I also enjoyed Dookie. That's without question. But I feel like these tracks kind of revolve more around their more recent stuff in terms of music discography. But I really enjoyed this one as well. I think it's definitely a more memorable track, and I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites, but it's definitely a memorable track as well, along with Say Goodbye. And I also like the fact that they had again two kind of faster bass tracks, and then kind of slowed it down with with Say Goodbye and Outlaws. They're a little bit on the slower side. So I like the juxtaposition between those two. I feel like it kind of adds some depth to the album, and it doesn't feel like you're listening to like six 12 tracks off Dookie where it's just straight like sounds like Basket Case or whatever. I like the kind of ebb and flow of the whole album, and I feel like again that comes with more maturity, more time to absorb things and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed that one. We'll move on to track number six, which is Bouncing Off the Wall. This one's another great one. I feel like this is another in the vein of Bang Bang and Revolution Radio. It's sort of more on the aggressive side. Um, I really enjoyed this one as well. Um, this one's another kind of more gritty or pop punky track. So again, it kind of pulls to what I enjoy the most out of Green Day. I do like there's more. I do like that there are ballady tracks, and we'll kind of get into those a little bit later. But I really enjoyed this one. We'll move on to track number seven, which is Still Breathing. This one's another great track. Um, I think this was the third single that they released. It's kind of like again, it's a ballady track, but I like that in this track. Um, it's just got this sort of emotional attachment to it and stuff like that. But I really enjoyed Still Breathing. Um, it's got it kind of, again, it reminds me as if it would be on a radio. I know, you know, Green Day has had some radio hits, obviously, but I feel like this one would definitely be a radio hit, without a doubt. It's more softer. It's a little bit more reserved and stuff, but I think you get more of that emotional side of Billy, which I really enjoy. As much as I enjoy, the more faster paced tracks like Bang Bang and Revolution Radio, I do like the fact that they kind of toned it down and they did, something a little bit less aggressive. So, again, that goes with the whole experience thing and having a lot of knowledge of how albums should work and stuff like that. So, really dug this one as well. I would definitely consider this to be one of my favorites as well. We'll move down to track number 8, which is Young Bloods. Um, this is another great one. I definitely wouldn't say it's one of the more memorable tracks, but I like the composing of the track. Billy, again, I think the whole band does an awesome job of just composing tracks in general. Obviously, they've been playing as a band for a long time, so they're gonna have that sort of experience, and they're gonna have that sort of talent to make tracks sound you know the best they can and stuff like that. So, um, another great track, but definitely not something that stuck out to me. But we'll move on to track number 9, which is "Too Dumb to Die." This kind of reminds me again of that more classic sort of pop punky vibes to it. It's got this very cool, uh, I would say, guitar riff. I would definitely go with guitar riff. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. I feel like it adds a lot of structure to the rest of the track, and Billy adds his vocal tonalities onto it and stuff like that. So, I would definitely say that this is another one of my favorites. It just got this again nostalgic feel to it. I know I'm using that a lot, but these albums, I mean, this track and this album in particular has a sort of nostalgic feel to it. So, I feel like if you like American Idiot, if you like 21st Century Breakdown, and you like a little hint of Dookie, then I feel like this would be a perfect album for you. We'll move on to track number 10, which is Troubled Time. This one also is a decent one. Um, I think this one also is a good one. I would say that again, it's a good track. It's not something that caught me too much, but I really enjoyed this one as well. Again, not being one of my favorite tracks, but I enjoyed this one. We'll move it into the 11th track, which is Forever Now. Again, it comes back to the whole like ebb and flow sort of a thing. This one's more of an aggressive track, more akin to like Bouncing Off the Wall or Bang Bang or Evolution Radio. Um, I really enjoyed this one. I like the faster paced tracks on this record. I feel like they do a great job at those sort of tracks. Not saying that they don't do a bad job with the slower tracks and the more emotionally based tracks. But I feel like this is kind of their strong suit are those like really not aggressive, but just really pop punk focused tracks. So I would definitely put this in the contender for one of my favorites. And lastly, the last track is called Ordinary World, and it's just basically Billy and an acoustic guitar. And, I really enjoyed this one. I didn't think I was going to like it just because it's at the end and it's kind of like a slower track, and you're like, man, this is slow. Like, why did they add this on the end? They should have had something with like a big ending to it or something like that. And I think they still achieved that. I think that in that sense, the big finish is that, Billy's kind of being emotional and sort of, letting himself out and just being a simplified track. I just feel like, you get the rawness of Billy and just that in general, I feel like kind of ends this album on a great note. Um, it kind of reminds me of something like, um, I wouldn't. What's the track? Time of My Life and stuff like that. I feel like this track would definitely be like a radio sort of track again. But I really enjoyed the. I just really enjoyed the simplicity of it more than anything. I think it's a great way to end the record is just with an acoustic track for everybody to kind of calm down and soothe into, and then obviously somewhere now has that's kind of slowish sort of build up into the next part of the track. So I feel like it's a good alternative to instead of going with a harsher track at the end, they kind of went with a softer track. I highly applaud Billy for doing that and the rest of the guys of Green Day. But I really enjoyed this track as well. But we'll move into the pros and the cons of this record. There are some track. I think all the tracks are great, but there are some tracks in my mind that are forgettable. Some that I can't remember, like Young Bloods and Troubled Time. Those for some reason just didn't catch my ear. Um, Not saying that they were bad tracks. It just for me, I just don't remember. They're either something with the riff or something with how Billy, portrays his voice or something like that. I just feel like to me it just didn't speak to me. And hey, maybe it might speak to you. Who knows? But to me, those tracks just didn't hit me the way that maybe they shouldn't. You know, maybe I have to listen to it a little bit more, but that's my overall opinion on it for now. I'll let you know and update you guys on my thoughts on it. But yeah, so overall I feel like it's a good solid comeback record. I think it's definitely worth a listen, especially like I said, if you enjoy American Idiot, if you enjoy 21st Century Breakdown. I feel like this is kind of like the baby of those two albums. Um, and I really enjoyed it. Overall, I feel like this is great. It's kind of the nostalgic bands are coming back and sort of in that regard. So I really enjoyed this one. I think it's a good sort of comeback record, saying like, "Hey, we're Green Day. We haven't left. We still make solid records." So that's good to know. And I really really enjoyed Revolution Radio. I think it's a solid Green Day record. Would I say it's my favorite Green Day record? Probably not, but I think overall it's a solid record, and you can see how far they've come over their lifespan and stuff like that. It's such a amazing and a cool experience to just listen to something where they're kind of like I wouldn't say towards the end, but definitely a resurgence of Green Day. So um, any cons that I would have would probably be that I felt like, again, I like that there were some slow tracks, but I feel like classic Green Day are like those really fast sort of, or not even fast, but just like sort of aggressively based tracks, more in that pop punk direction. I feel like that they needed to add maybe a song or two more, and I felt like that would have been great. But again, I like the diversity. I like what they did. I like that they switched up some things, and I like that they kind of took a chance on some of these tracks. And I feel like they came out pretty well. But my overall rating for this record, I would probably give it a solid 8 out of 10. I don't think it's in my contenders for best record of the year or best records of the year, but I definitely think it's a solid one at best, and I feel like people should give it a listen, especially if you are like me in my boat where you've listened to them for a long time. You know how they are and stuff like that, and Green Day. Obviously, they are a well accomplished band. So I feel like if you enjoy American Idiot, if you enjoy 21st Century Breakdown, I feel like again this is right up your alley. There's a little bit of Juki influence in there, but I feel like it's more akin to those two records. But overall, I enjoyed it. I personally feel like you should give it a listen, give it a chance at least. Go check out the singles, "Bang Bang," "Revolution Radio," and "Still Breathing," and then hopefully you'll make your thoughts on that. But let me know in the comments if you have listened to it or what your thoughts are on the singles in the comments section below. I would love to know, what your guys' thoughts are on it. What's your thoughts on Green Day getting back together? Do you think they should have, called it quits? Do you think it's a cool thing that they're getting back together and stuff? I think it's cool personally because again, this nostalgic thing, like Blink 182's back together, Sum 41's back together. I feel like that to me is a great feeling, and just bands that I grew up listening to are kind of you know resurfacing and stuff like that. I really enjoy that, and I highly recommend that you go check that out. So if you enjoyed this review, definitely make sure to subscribe and definitely make sure to hit that like button. Again, much love to you guys for checking out my review of again Green Day's Revolution Radio. And let me know if you want me to review any albums in the future. I will get to it ASAP. So again, let me know when in the comment section below which albums you'd like me to review in the future. And with that being said, guys, we'll talk to you later. Peace.
So did you like the video? Then make sure you subscribe to Audio Addiction's channel by hitting that button right over there. Subscribe to our channel helps you stay up to speed on all of our latest content. Speaking of latest content, you can check out a recent episode from our live weekly show right down there, as well as a recent album review right over there. And you can check us out on social media right over there. So what are you waiting for? Let's talk music.